All right, today we are diving into a book that's pretty much essential reading for anyone who considers themselves a visionary, a game changer, or a challenger. We're talking about a handbook for defying old, tired business models and actually designing the companies of tomorrow. So, right off the bat, the book asks some really simple, but honestly, very powerful questions. And let me just ask you this one straight up. Are you trying to replace old, outdated ways of doing business? I mean, if that thought has ever crossed your mind, you are definitely in the right place. Because let's face it, the business world is shifting under our feet at a wild pace. I mean, right now, as we speak, entirely new industries are being born. And at the same time, old established ones are starting to crumble. The old rules just don't apply anymore. And sticking with the way we've always done it is becoming a huge, huge risk. All of this brings us to what the book calls the new business landscape. It's a world that's defined by constant challenge and the need for reinvention. I think this quote just nails it. You've got these nimble upstarts challenging the old guard, and some of those big established players are, well, struggling to keep up. It's this dynamic that makes understanding and innovating your business model more critical than it has ever been. Okay, so how in the world do you navigate all this chaos and start building something truly new? Well, the book's answer starts with a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. We need a shared blueprint. Just imagine for a second, what if everyone on your team, from the CEO down to the interns, all spoke the same language when it comes to your business? A simple visual way to see all the moving parts, to spot the weaknesses, and to brainstorm some really powerful changes together. Well, this is it. This is that blueprint. It's called the Business Model Canvas. And it's not some crazy complicated spreadsheet. It's more like a strategic map for your business. It's a single page that lets you lay out exactly how your company creates value for your customers, how you get it to them, and, just as important, how you make money in the process. This canvas, it's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. So, now that we have this blueprint, let's look at some really cool game-changing patterns you can build with it. The book highlights several proven recipes for success, and we're going to explore a couple of the big ones right now. First up, we've got a concept called unbundling. The big idea here is that most companies aren't actually one single thing. They're usually a mashup of three very different businesses. One that's all about customer relationships, another focused on product innovation, and a third that handles all the infrastructure. The key insight is that when you try to do all three at once, under one roof, they tend to conflict with each other and hold the whole company back. Just take a look at these sketches from the book. On one side, you've got product innovation. That's all about attracting top talent, high costs, and a need for speed. On the other side, you've got infrastructure. This is all about scale, efficiency, and keeping costs low. Totally different goals, totally different cultures. When you unbundle them, you let each part focus on what it does best, without getting in the other's way. All right, next up, let's talk about one of the most disruptive patterns out there. Free. I mean, we see this everywhere, especially online, right? The model's pretty straightforward. A big group of users gets something awesome for free, and a much smaller, different group of customers ends up paying for it all. And probably the most powerful version of this is called freemium. And to see just how ridiculously powerful this can be, let's look at a classic David versus Goliath story, Skype taking on the old school telephone companies. This is the perfect example of two completely different business models going head to head. Okay, so let's break this down, because this is where it gets really good. A phone company is an infrastructure company. Their biggest expense by far is building and maintaining these huge physical networks. But Skype's a software company. Their biggest cost is just distributing the software, which costs basically nothing. This meant Skype could let 90% of its users get the service for free, all paid for by the 10% who wanted premium features. A telco, with its massive costs, just had no way to compete with that. And the result of this incredibly disruptive model? Well, within just 5 years, Skype had over 400 million users. That is the kind of mind-blowing scale you can unlock with a freemium model when your cost to add one more user is practically zero. So we've seen some powerful patterns, but how do you come up with your own? This is where the book really pushes us to shift our thinking, to stop just analyzing what exists and to start designing what could be. It's about learning to think like a designer. And this is where we get into the really creative part of the process. The book makes this fantastic point that true innovation doesn't come from some neat, orderly plan. No, it emerges from what it calls systematic chaos, a process that feels messy but actually has a deep purpose.
And visually, that chaos looks a lot like this. The whole point of ideation isn't to land on that one perfect idea right away. It's about quantity over quality at the start. It's about generating a ton of possibilities, exploring really wild ideas, and giving yourself a whole menu of options to choose from later. The best way to kick this all off is by asking these provocative what-if questions. I mean, just think about this question for a second. A question that completely turned an entire industry on its head. This one simple what if challenged every single assumption about how furniture was supposed to be sold and delivered. And of course, it led directly to IKEA's revolutionary business model. So the book boils this whole design approach down into a really simple 3-step process. First, ideation. Ask those challenging what-if questions to break the status quo. Second, prototyping. Don't just talk about ideas, make them real. A quick sketch on a business model canvas, that's a prototype. And finally, storytelling. Bring your new idea to life by telling a compelling story about how it works, especially from your customer's point of view. And that brings us to the final and most important question the book leaves us with, and the one I want to leave with you. This isn't just theory. So, how will you design your business 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years? How will you be the upstart and not the one left behind, scrambling to reinvent? The tools are right here. Now the rest is up to you.